the number of views. It's more than you would think, 10, 15 people or so on some of them.
Yeah, I'm sure they watched the first 30 seconds and quit at that point. And it looks like we're getting Adam in as well.
There's Kathy.
Now I'm not muted.
Hey, Adam, just FYI, it sounds like your audio is quite low.
Quite low? Okay.
I can hear you now, but it is a little lower than most everyone else, just so you know.
Okay.
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for joining us.
Now it should not be.
Good to see you.
That's good. All right. Good. Well, we have a couple more folks that we're waiting on. Once they join in, we'll go ahead and knock this out. So, Kathy, you're in the same position as DB, I'm sure, with the cyber challenges associated with Roanoke College.
Yeah, the cyber incident, yes.
The incident, that's a month and a half long.
How many courses do you have to teach this coming semester?
I have 2 with the lab, but they're new. So I think that's going to be my technical challenge in the next couple weeks with computer access. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with it. DB was telling us about the issues with gaining access to files and so forth. So
yeah, it should be solved shortly. I have confidence that any day now it'll be back. So
okay.
She's a chair, so she can say that with confidence. I don't have any confidence. I'm glad she has confidence. That makes me feel better.
All right. Hi, Art. How you doing? All right. He's 5 by 5. So I think Tom's supposed to join us. He was invited. I'd like to just, well, it's already after 1. Maybe he was just, I don't think I invited him just as a courtesy. I thought he was going to participate, but if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and just give him another minute. We'll send him a quick text here. Okay. All right, I've texted Tom, but I still think, just to be respectful of everyone's time, I'd like to go ahead and get things started. So the staff were discussing some various strategic options for us in the future, as far as partnering with college and university folks who are applying for NSF grants. So as you're all aware of, there is a broader impact statement that has to be written. Well, there are museums around the country that do partner with regional universities in such a way that, excuse me, Zach, Tom's having some issues. Can you resend him the link, please?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you. All right, so anyway, basically the museum folks provide the write-up for the broader impact statement for these grant proposals. And you can get a fair amount of money to support either exhibit fabrication or education. So what I'd like to do is I'm gonna share my screen. I've got a very brief set of slides here just to bring us all up on the same page here. All right, so so the question we're asking is, how do we establish these relationships? So those of you who are on one of our 2 boards, you're very well familiar with what the museum does and how we operate. However, you know, there are a lot of folks out in university and college communities that lack that information. So 1, how do we establish these relationships? What's the strategic way in which we can engage with universities so they know when they are submitting and preparing grant proposals, how can they get involved with us and vice versa? And can VMNH be a mechanism to provide a competitive broader impact statement for NSF grants? So to start with, I'll just kind of cover what my thoughts are and some of the staff thoughts are on exhibits. First of all, we can provide for a proposal boilerplate, who we are, what our mission is, our accomplishments, and so forth. We can offer up a special exhibit gallery. It's 1,800 square feet. It currently supports our CATS exhibit. Now, of course, we can only have one exhibit at a time in there, so we have to be strategic. In other words, we cannot be part of 10 different broader impact statements all at one time. So, excuse me, Tom is, Zach, Tom is in the waiting room. So if you'd let him in, please. So, so we have to, again, be strategic in who we partner with and when, because of these space limitations. But nonetheless, the idea is that we can work with our university partners to develop exhibit content that we can turn into a physical exhibit, even potentially a traveling exhibit that can live at our facility, at the university, and maybe even be a form of revenue, further revenue for us to rent out to other exhibits. I'm sorry, to other museums and their exhibits. So one great example of this I remember from past years, about 10 years ago, the University of Minnesota, I believe, partnered with the Minnesota Science Museum, or Museum of Science, I should say, and they were doing research on lion manes, and they came up with these very interesting conclusions, and they turned it all into a traveling exhibit, and it did quite well. It circulated the country. I feel we can do the same thing. So we can, for the proposal, provide the text for the broader impact statement. We can provide a budget that will provide information on what we'll need to physically purchase to develop the exhibit, but also how to market it. And then VMNH conducts the installation during the period of funded research. We can, of course, update the exhibit too as the university partners learn more about their topic. The second avenue in which we can participate is via Christie's program through our education and outreach programming. So again, we can provide all of the boilerplate, and then we can develop SOL-centric outreach lessons that are basically themed after the work of our university partners. And so again, we can provide the budget for development, time and materials, marketing, and we can even ask for the funds to actually provide the programming free of charge to schools. And then, of course, the educators continuously update the materials based upon the results of the research. So those were a couple of areas that we thought that we could partner with universities and colleges to supplement their broader impact statements. So really what I would like this committee to consider and have input on is, first of all, what's the best way to connect with university and college partners? We're talking right now internally about developing a full color flyer that has examples of exhibits we've developed, education programs that we give, and basically explain how we can work with them and make their lives a little easier while generating a flow of income for us. So that's one way, but there are other ways that we should be doing this, other avenues in which we can educate university and college partners about what our potential is. And then lastly, are there other mechanisms appropriate for broader impacts that anyone can think of? Again, the two that we're considering in-house are development of new exhibits as well as outreach for schools. But is there anything else that you all see from an outside perspective? So with that, I'll stop the share here. And I just want to open things up to any discussion that folks have in which how we can connect with better with these university partners and provide the information they need for the broader impact statements. By the way, Ben will be taking minutes today, and he'll circulate them later on in the week. Carol.
A couple of things. First of all, thank everybody for being here today. It's nice to see you all. I've seen names, Dorothy, I've seen your name many, many times, and it's just nice to see you. Hey, Tom, Happy New Year. a couple of things that came to mind as I was thinking about our meeting today. And the first one is just really a strategic question, I guess, for you, Joe. Why would we restrict this to NSF grants? I understand the impact statement, but I'm thinking about the fact that when you really compare the number of faculty members around the state who are doing just really great research that's not funded by NSF, right? But who are getting funding that does include public outreach, particularly now that there is more of a focus on underserved communities. It seems to me like you would probably get more interest from faculty members if it weren't just restricted to NSF as you are promoting this. So
Okay.
I'll throw that out there.
I'm great with that. So when we develop any kind of verbiage that will go out, I'd like to make sure, based on your comments here, that while I think NSF broader impact statement is just kind of maybe the most obvious illustration of this direction. I want to make sure that they're aware that if they have other funding sources, we're happy to participate with that as well.
And the other thing is, one of the things I love about the museum is the fact that there is so much going on from so many different disciplines, and you all are very good at connecting. And Christy, the work that you all are doing with education, I think is just wonderful. But I'm wondering if, in searching for university partners, if you want to be a little more specific about some priorities. Because I think that you're going to find that there are faculty members who across the board would have an interest, would find some way. We're pretty good at this, at finding ways to connect. But they may not necessarily be priorities for you all. And so I think it's okay to say that you've got certain things that you really want to push. And then the third thing is, another way to consider this, and it's just because I have so many colleagues who are now interested in this, digital materials as opposed to actual physical exhibits. I think that's something to consider, kind of opening up the discussion to what they might provide to the museum as part of their connection with you. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Kathy.
Yeah, just to build on that a little bit. So I've been working as part of broader impact statements for 7 or 8 years now on different grants. And I've seen an increasing push towards the web-based materials. A lot of the larger programs, and I'm part of the critical zone science program, but some of the ones that are larger networked programs have a requirement that the education and outreach materials be available also online as part of it. And so the outreach people, they create materials or programming that they can do in a face-to-face format. And I think the exhibits would be brilliant for that, but then also having a way that teachers can engage with that through the web. So I think especially given where we are with COVID, that would be very attractive to NSF to have that kind of built in.
All right. So Ben, make sure we capture that. We of course have shown throughout the last 8 months or so that we do have a talent for creating online content. But poor people like Christy and Adam, we're having them do all that without a real true funding flow. Ben as well, So yeah, I think that would be an awesome opportunity for us.
I would also add to that it's really important to make sure that it's clear that it's not just NSF, because for example, the dragon stuff never can go through NSF. They look at me like I've got 3 heads, but NEH loves me, right? So there's a very different game for the way you write those grants, and having the support of a museum strengthens that dramatically, but there is a difference in how that has to be done. And even the boilerplate is a little different. I would say that we really need to focus the VMNH website to showcase that it wants to focus with people outside of K-12. Because right now there's such a heavy K-12 focus that certain researchers might just go, yeah, I don't want to do K-12. I really don't want to focus on that. You might have historically Black colleges that really want to focus on their population, and we would be a great partner for that, but it doesn't showcase that way on our website. So even just kind of Googling and looking and trying to find your partners as that industrious professor type, you might just kind of go right past VMNH. So I would say we have to work on our image. The other thing that I think is really, really important is if you produce a pamphlet, you can't just mail it, because that's wasted money, because we all just kind of look at that stuff and chuck it. To be completely honest, we get so much shit in the mail that it's real easy to pitch it out. So what I would encourage more than just a pamphlet is a speaking tour, where the museum kind of pinpoints colleges in a particular area or hierarchy of who we're looking to work for or with, and then go see them, make appointments, go give them presentations about what you can bring to them, start putting you into their minds more than just a pamphlet. So that's my other big piece of advice. And then the other thing is, rather than asking how we can help them, show them how you can help them. Take projects to them. So if Adam's got this great whale that he's excavating from solite, go to them with an idea. Find the people that do that stuff and go to them and say, here, we want your help. Come help us. That way you're attracting them to a scenario that then you're creating that bond, so that then they come to you the next time they have a request. So I would come up with a research agenda of projects that you think would touch Virginia's colleges and universities, and then go find those people. Use your scientists that you have on these committees to help connect to the right people. You know, I just got lucky that I worked with you guys on other stuff when we thought about the Dragon project, right? And then rather than creating museums exhibits at the museum, my other piece of advice would be try to find ways to create exhibits at their institution to get your name and your placard all over their institution, kind of like we do for you at Roanoke College whenever we do anything with the dragons, right? We always put Virginia Museum on that, or Darwin Day stuff. So I would kind of create a menu of options of things you can definitely bring to them. Use us as an example of how you've done that, how you've connected to Roanoke College. They don't have to know it's always me, but it's okay. And then take that to them as ideas, because a lot of times I think faculty members are so overwhelmed, especially right now, because we're all online and dealing with families and balancing 400 things more than normal in a weird way. Take ideas to them. You will get a much better yes rate than just kind of throwing a pamphlet at them and saying, let us know when we can help you. And that's just my advice, because I think a lot of people don't know where we are. I don't think a lot of people know we exist, because they're working with their smaller community science centers more than us. So use this as a way to just kind of educate them. And I think you might be more shocked at the rate of success.
I think DB brings up a good point. In my experience, limited experience in Los Angeles with the Natural History Museum, these partnerships between the museum and other entities developed organically. They developed through partnerships with individual curators, educators, exhibit fabricators, and so on. And although it's good to have materials at the ready so you can, plug them in and say, these are the kinds of things that we can do, that's not how these things start, at least not initially. I mean, once you establish a reputation for being a productive partner in things, I don't doubt that people will follow. And I like the idea of beefing up the website so it emphasizes some of the things that the museum does that may not be emphasized already. But it really starts with relationships, and that's going to be relationships between the curators and the educators, collaboratively talking about things, getting involved with things. And then that's where the ideas come from, and the ideas for grants. I don't think putting together a boilerplate thing and then putting it out there and thinking that people are going to come to us or look at us as a source is going to work very well. And that, I think, is for all kinds of reasons. One, as DB points out, is that people are just overwhelmed with receiving materials. But the other thing too is the museum is still remote. I mean, for Virginia, it's a long way away from a lot of other things that are going on in the state. And that's why I think it's more important. It's incredibly important to continue getting out there as staff, build on the things that the museum has done with state parks, build on the things that, you do in conducting research or giving education programs. But now with a different overall view that we could be expanding what we do now, but with an eye toward a collaborative grant that will, enhance everybody's presence in the field, but also bring in a few bucks while we do it.
I have a question, if I might jump in for DB. You've mentioned that in focusing outside of NSF, that other that kind of the boilerplate is somewhat different. I'm curious, in terms of language choices, are things like terms like broader impact and transformative, is that still kind of the things that you would say in terms of presenting this to non-NSF institutions?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still the same wording. They're still asking for broader impacts. But for example, a boilerplate that's going to NSF can use science terms that cannot go to NEH, right? If you talk about, science SOLs, they're going to go, what are you even talking about? We don't care about this stuff. We don't care about this word that you've just used. And so just the way that it's written has to be completely rethought. But yeah, they're still using the same edu-speak. They're still using the same buzzwords. That part's the same.
So I was thinking of one of the carrots that the museum might be able to use, and that is the publication series. I think that a lot of faculty are really interested in public outreach and in sharing their research in ways that are more accessible. But I also think it's important to emphasize to folks that there is this publication series that has a long history, very well done, very professional, and is respected. And I think that, promoting the notion that there could be publications that are associated with this work, professional publications, would just be kind of icing on the cake, I think, for a lot of faculty. That's one of the big issues, of course, is just getting the word out there to colleagues, getting the word out there in such a way that you're demonstrating your commitment to your discipline and that you're moving knowledge forward. And it just seems to me that the museum has a really nice, has something in place that would further that.
Thank you, Carol. That's something I hadn't honestly connected the dots with, because it does provide a cost for us to publish Jeffersoniana or Insects of Virginia. But if we can further plug that into a proposal to have publication cash at a couple $100 a page or something like that, it would greatly help our publication efforts here. So thank you. Kathy, did you have something you're going to add?
Well, I just and I sort of, as ideas come to mind, in terms of efficiencies of just rather than trying to do outreach and target individual faculty members, sort of cold calling ideas, targeting grant offices at different universities and just making sure that the people involved in putting the grants together know that you're interested. It might be a bug that they can put in people's ears and go, I think this section is a little bit, needs some beefing up. Have you thought about, the museum? The other thing would be thinking about maybe regional science conferences or regional conferences outside the sciences as a way to take exhibits, and that idea of taking things to people, an efficient way to get a lot of people to see, if you had an exhibit or something that was targeted to this idea of doing outreach related to grants, or just, I don't know, maybe an easier way to find people all in one room to even just go around and talk to people one-on-one. And, as you're looking at their posters, oh, have you thought about this? So.
I think that's a great idea. Again, something I just hadn't connected the dots with, but Cal's instrumental and involved with the Virginia, I forget what we call it, Cal, the Virginia Insect Group. whatever they're called. But
Virginia
anyway,
insects.
pardon me?
Insects of Virginia.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then Adam, you go to the Southeast Paleontological Conference?
I actually haven't had the chance to. There hasn't been one since I started, but that's definitely something I'm planning on interfacing with every time it happens.
Yeah, so I think that's something that we could actually set up an information table or poster. You know. That,
Oh, you're talking. I'm sorry. You're talking about conferences. I thought you were talking about publication series. So you're talking about the erstwhile Entomological Society of Virginia.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
there's a rip roaring group. Let's definitely hit them up. Pardon me.
I know when
Sorry.
Al and I spoke to the American Fisheries Society chapter, you know, there was a lot of interest in making connections, and nobody really knew about the museum. So maybe that, or there were maybe a few that had a past history with the museum, but it's all about relationships, like Art said. And I think that if we could start that way first, that's going to naturally lend to partnerships in granting. And I also second what Kathy said, and that is working through the offices of sponsored programs or research and scholarship, or what you have at the different universities and colleges, to make sure that they're aware that you're out there as a potential partner, because they can suggest to faculty who are writing a proposal that maybe that'd be a good thing to add to their proposal and make it a little stronger.
Tom, I don't know if it's just me, but your volume is going way up and then way out. So I caught about 2/3 of that.
I caught a chunk of it. Ben, did you catch enough of that?
Well, it is being recorded, so you can always go back and listen to it.
Yeah, yeah. We'll make sure to get all of Tom's suggestion on the in the minutes. But Tom, I appreciate you in particular seconding the grants office. So I guess we're so used to doing things on our own around here. It's kind of easy to forget that bigger institutions do have grant offices. So I think that's going to be very valuable. Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's thoughts on this. Does anybody else want to add anything, or does any of the staff have questions for our board members?
One thing I would say in developing, Nancy and I are currently developing part of a proposal with with a VMNH research associate, Ray Bernor, who is retiring from his institution, coming down to live in Martinsville. So he wants to run his proposal through the museum. And one thing that he has been particularly interested in is the possibilities of internships and traineeships through the museum. And one thing I think that we could definitely offer in terms of bringing workers to the museum in the way that some of the past grants focused on collections have done is the fact that because we have a small institution in which departments are small enough to easily interface with one another, we can provide a much more, to use another buzzword, integrative experience for people coming in which they would be able to experience what it's like to, help out with the education department, and what it's like to do outreach on the ground in a way that going to the AMNH or the Smithsonian would never really be able to provide, because those are such massive institutions in which the departments and research areas don't really talk to each other because they're so, enormous in size, and as a consequence, disconnected from one another. So the smallness of our institution and the kind of amazing, I think, utility of that smallness could be a really attractive thing for getting people interested in us.
Well, and just to get involved with those kinds of programs too, that's yet another justification for the improvements at the Douglas Avenue facility. We've been talking about the possibility of housing for researchers and interns there, or at least that is a possibility. And so, being able to house people that we're bringing in to work on these various projects would be something we should be thinking seriously about too.
Very good point. And thanks for your input on that, Adam. That would be exciting to have a more consistent group of folks coming through and working with you all. So, all right, looking at the agenda, a couple of things. First of all, I guess this gets addressed to Tom. At the board meeting, between now and the next board meeting, Tom, you'll just need to appoint a chair of this ad hoc committee. And so, related to that, what is everyone's thoughts on any kind of follow-up? Because what we're going to do is we're going to circulate the minutes. The staff will get together and we'll kind of discuss some of the main points, and then I guess generate a roadmap that we'll either share at the next board meeting or share electronically, whatever's most appropriate. And then basically execute at that point, probably going in the directions you're talking about between developing the relationships, hitting up grant offices and so forth. So I'll leave it up to the board members if you would like to put it on your calendars now, a follow-up to this meeting, or if you would like to review the minutes and the roadmap and so forth and plan something out from there.
Well, one thing that we should do in the interim is to start thinking about who might be the potential partners, what kind of things we want to do, who could we reach out to, just as suggestions to get started. Again, not as cold calls, but as people that we already have a relationships with. And let's get that into the minutes as part of this process. And so we actually have a more of a working document with a real sense of direction to it, rather than waiting for the next step to see what we're going to do.
Sure. So I would then propose, Art, that when Ben assembles the minutes, what we'll do is the obvious route for us to start would be with our research associates. So what we'll do is we'll put the list of research associates and what their associated institutions are. And then when we circulate that, if there are further colleagues that you think for any reason would be beneficial to that list, then we can begin to grow that. And as you said, Art, make that kind of a living document that can.
Oh, that's a great start. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we make sure that we list the institutions those places or those people are in? Because, for example, I know that Virginia Western Community College, it's just a community college, but it's been bringing in money left, right, and central. And they don't necessarily have a grants office, and they don't necessarily have what we would call active research programs, but they may be fantastic partners for some of these fast grants, fast money, because they're pulling in money from different avenues that I can't touch at Roanoke College. So if we know where these people are, it'll help us identify where holes might be, I guess.
Okay, no problem. All right, so get back to the agenda here. Basically, all we have left is any open discussion, which we kind of already engaged with, but I don't know if there are other talking points that people want to cover here. Okay, with that, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to chit chat with us and provide us with, I think, a good start to this. So as I said before, Ben and I will make sure that the minutes are compiled in such a way that we can turn it into sort of a working document. And staff as well, you'll see the minutes. So, I know not all of your colleagues and people that you work with are research associates. So if you have other names to add, please bring those up as well. So, well, Tom, you're board chair. I'd just like to give you the courtesy of adjourning the meeting or bringing up any other point that you feel is necessary. I think he's trying to tell me something. Oh, you're trying to join audio by phone. Okay. All right. Well, I will take the honor then of adjourning the meeting. So again, thanks everyone. Just look out for our minutes and so forth, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.